Let it roll. We're going to let it roll. We're going to let it roll. Something about this one feels a little bit sweeter, guys. A little bit sweeter. Woo-hoo. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back into the Talk Weekly post-game show. I am your host, Rob Franco. Joined with me are my co-hosts, Franco, Zack, Finn. You guys know all these guys. Man, oh man, the Boston Celtics complete the 4-game sweep in the Eastern Conference Finals against the Indiana Pacers, 105-102, to advance to their second NBA Finals in 3 years. Guys, Jaylen Brown was your Eastern Conference Finals Larry Bird MVP. The Celtics, again, now in the playoffs, 11-2. They have won the last 7 in a row. They have won 10 games here without Kristaps Porzingis, who was their third best player. Waiting on the other side of the bracket is the Dallas Mavericks. They are up 3-0 in their series. We're going to assume and we're going to roll throughout this show as if history doesn't happen and that number of 0 in 100 and 156, something like that, sticks. Guys, you know the drill. Your initial thoughts, reactions, and takeaways from tonight's win.
We're here. It finally happened. I mean, it's kind of weird that it's more relieving than a celebrating factor for Celtics fans this season compared to when we achieved this 2 years ago. I think that we're feeling a more sense of, all right, this is the position that we assumed. This was the expectation for the Boston Celtics, and I honestly believe the Boston Celtics so far have exceeded the expectations that people have bestowed upon them. I think that they have been able to handle business and have canceled any narratives against this team of not being able to beat the team to go down in a fight. And that Pacers series was a dogfight through and through. Every single game, every 5 minutes, down to the wire, every single game. I think that Indiana was one of the teams that put up the biggest battles against the Celtics, which is to be expected when you reach the Eastern Conference Finals. I think that it was a very physical game tonight. The refs were kind of letting them play, definitely at some points, or sometimes getting a little bit more involved. But being able to maintain composure, being able to drop the plays to finish off the game and advance is much sweeter than coming back to Boston for a Game 5 on Wednesday.
I mean, for me, I'm just proud, man. Like, you know, I'm quick to look back at last year's season and especially Jaylen Brown in Game 7 and, you know, all the let's trade Jaylen Brown. He's not worth $300 million. But we're here a year later, right? And now he's holding the Larry Bird trophy. So I'm just so proud of how resilient the team is as a whole. You look down the whole roster, the way Tatum's been able to hold himself, Brown steadiness, the matureness from Coach Mazzulla. Just you look at this team 1 through 8, 1 through 7 right now, just so solid, and they've just proven time in and time out just how consistent they are, and man, they just deserve it. And just to go back on where they were a year ago today and where they are right now, I just think like you got to take a moment and just appreciate how far this team has come, how much they've improved. And like you look at the clutch play, like that's something that stood out to me tonight. You look back at last year's season and down the stretch of games when it was close, that's when the Celtics were at their worst. No ball movement, bad shots. And then you look at a series like this and you see the matureness from guys like Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, just how steady they are. Like there was 3 games in this series, right? 3 games where it came down to clutch basketball and the Celtics were able to win all of them. And I think like people will say, yeah, the Pacers weren't healthy and the Celtics should have swept them. But, you know, that's just something that stands out to me, like how how well their defense was able to play in the clutch and the shot making and the looks they were getting. So just to see the matureness and where they are right now, it's a testament to, everything they've had to go through in the past, and to get back to the finals, it's a surreal and amazing feeling.
Yeah, I mean, I think this will probably go down as one of the most competitive sweeps that we've seen. It reminds me a lot of the Brooklyn series from 2022, when I believe the differential for the series was like 11 or something like that. I think this one is probably close to 20, so obviously a little bit less competitive, but pretty close. I'm also going to read this stat, which I think is kind of crazy. The Celtics are one of 9 teams, including the Celtics, to advance to the NBA Finals with 20 losses or less heading into that finals round. I'll read some of the teams that are in this group. The 1996 Bulls, who were 83-11, the 2016 Warriors, the 97 Bulls, the 2017 Warriors, the 86 Celtics, 87 Lakers, 2013 Heat, the 92 Bulls, and the 2024 Celtics. So those are some of the best teams, or at least some of the teams we consider to be the best teams ever. 2016 Warriors, three-peat Bulls teams, 86 Celtics, 2013 Heat, and they're right there. They have the same record entering the finals as they have the same amount of losses entering the finals as the 92 Bulls and the 13 Heat.
It's crazy. It's just nuts. I mean, they've been awesome. They were awesome tonight, again, down the stretch. And, like, that's the expectation. Like, I kind of agree with Franco. This one's awesome. But for some reason, it's like it's expected. And the next one, after these next 4, if they're able to go do it, which I think they are, that's when I think it's really going to come out. If we're talking ball here, if I put the fan in me aside, which is tough to do in a moment like this, I'll tell you. I think Boston showed a lot of maturity this series, which is something that we didn't know if we're going to see out of these guys, especially from previous tendencies they've had in the past. And I think that's kind of what led them through this first 3 rounds of the playoffs. Was they were the experienced team up against pretty much every team outside the Miami Heat. And, that's what did it for them. So, I don't think it's a knock to say that the Boston Celtics have, beaten these bad teams handily. Quite frankly, I think that is a pat on the back if you're the Celtics, because you weren't able to do that in your prior years. Last year's team would have gone 7 against the Heat and 6 against Cleveland and probably 7 against Indiana if we're being realistic here with ourselves. So I will say big plays down the stretch defensively from Drew Holiday, some big shots by Derek White, the maturity and the confidence in Brown and Tatum to keep these guys afloat. The supporting cast and Horford and Pritchard and those guys, they stepped up. Brissett with some random minutes in games, 2 and 3 to really, put the defensive edge over Indiana. I think all of it really played a major factor. And then, Finn talked about it a little bit. Joe Mazzulla. Mazzulla's been awesome. I mean, he really has. He has made all the right decisions in these playoffs. And I think tonight you saw it again, a couple timeouts there late in the fourth quarter to kind of get this team, settled and right. And I think throughout the course of this Pacers series, you kind of saw Mazzulla out coaching Carlisle at times. That's what you've been looking for out of that guy. So a sense of maturity in purpose from this team, I think, is really what sets them aside from the field. So, again, they get how many days off? They get 11. Is my
10.
math terrible?
I think it's 10.
10 days off, not count, right. 10 days off. They got to be in Boston for all 10 of those. And then some 13, if you're including the 3 for game 2. It sets up perfect for them. And you hope Kristaps returns, but let's talk a little bit about Jaylen Brown here, because he is, like I said earlier, Eastern Conference Finals MVP. Finn, you touched on it a little bit. The growth of Jaylen Brown has truly been incredible. Every year he's come into the league, he's gotten better. He got paid this offseason the largest, richest contract in NBA history at 5 years, $304 million. A lot of people said that was an overpay for Jaylen Brown. Finn, if you were to, I guess, kind of address those people, let me hear a little bit about Jaylen Brown, especially in this series.
I've been saying it on my page, but he's just standing on business. and he's done so since the beginning of the year. Whether you like it or not, on less shot attempts than last season, his numbers are better all around. His defense is better. The leadership, I mean, he's just been able to put it all together this entire season and play at such a high level. And it's been so amazing to watch. You look at this series, he's just been so timely, right? In game 1, we saw the buzzer beater to send it to OT. Game 2, the 40-point bomb, and then closing out tonight, he was super, super solid. So to me, I mean, especially after what happened in last year's playoffs, Jaylen Brown, I mean, it's about how you come back, and Jaylen Brown's been the perfect example of that. And I'm just beyond proud and excited for Jaylen. And, let's hope he can carry it into the finals, which I'm sure he will be able to do.
Especially now, this is my thing. It's because with Jaylen Brown, guys, the expectation doesn't really fall on him, and the pressure doesn't go on to Brown's shoulders. As much as, some people might, comment this or that on him, or how much the media and Stephen A. Smith wants to make up sources and whatever it might be. The truth of the matter, the fact, however you see it, is, those expectations fall onto Jason Tatum's shoulders. And I think something with this award, and something I thought in this award when it was handed to Jaylen Brown, was, oh man, it should have been Tatum. I thought that. Not necessarily taking anything away from Jaylen Brown at all, but that's the expectation. And I think the truth is, with Jaylen Brown, is that's the luxury, and that's what makes the Celtics special, is the fact that you have these two guys. It's not a one-man show. And all of the best teams in NBA history have had that tandem. LeBron and Wade, Durant and Curry, Kobe and Shaq, Jordan and Pippen, Bird and McHale, Magic and Kareem. I mean, to be a champion, you need those top dogs. And I think this series is finally when Jaylen Brown got that stamp of approval that I think he's been waiting for from really his peers in the media and everyone. Us fans here in the Celtics, circle have known he's that guy. But I think that's what's most important about this for me and how he played, was that he has now ascended himself into that category of, the Kobe to the Shaq and the Jordan to in the Pippen. And it is now the Brown and the Tatum. They are both Eastern Conference Finals MVPs. They're now going to their second finals in 3 years together. They very handily got over the hump, guys. So, Franco and Zack, whichever one, wants to chime in first. Jaylen Brown, when you look at him, is he that officially in that tier now of that he is they are that duo?
I'm going to start off by saying this is a Jaylen Brown quote on winning the Eastern Conference Finals MVP. I wasn't expecting it at all. I never win shit. That's the direct Jaylen Brown quote. But yeah, I mean, they are in that conversation as a duo. Obviously, they have to really cement themselves. I think they do have to win the title this year.
Right.
But the numbers outside of the ring do support, them being in that duo. I think they probably both average 30 a night this entire series. If not, they're super close. But yeah, I mean, their numbers have supported them being one of the better duos, or top 5, top 10 duos of all time, probably for the last 2 or 3 years. And I think the only thing that they really need to do to really cement themselves is obviously get the ring.
Yeah, I think that something that is different about the Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown duo is how close they are in talent level. I think that when you look at most of the other duos, LeBron and Wade, Tatum and Jordan and Pippen, there was A and B, and I'm not saying that Dwayne Wade was any worse or was that bad next to LeBron, but I think they were just, there was the top guy. I think you're gonna see these two can really have to be two co-heads, and I think that there's no president and vice president. I think they're both gonna be at the same level when they're raising a title, and I think that's a very good problem to have with this team. And I think they're kind of yin and yang with each other in leadership styles, play styles as well, that has been helping them win these games. I think Jaylen Brown's consistency and Jason Tatum's ability to have those high scoring games when he's shooting more from the field is very helpful for the team. And I think we're going to see a lot more from Jason Tatum during the finals. And hopefully one of them will obviously have to shine through when the moment's the brightest.
Right, and I something I do think that I do think is, I think Brown made some big plays this series, right? I think you put it in a vacuum. Tatum's probably better all around in terms of controlling the game, like we say. He's done so well. Obviously, 30 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists speaks for the volumes for itself. Brown also had a phenomenal statistical series, but I think it was Jaylen Brown's just knocking down big shots. Obviously, the shot in Game 1 has sent the Celtics to overtime. He had a couple big ones tonight, so I do think that it was warranted. Jaylen Brown deserved it, and I think that's what's important. But I do think what's interesting here is going to the NBA Finals now. If we're kind of advancing and looking past this series, which, is important now, is, it's going to be a very, very, very high pressure situation for Tatum and Brown. When you're going up against Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, that's not an easy matchup, right? Obviously, I like Brown and Tatum. Defensively, I think they bring a lot more to the table than Luka and Kyrie, and I think offensively they bring just as much. But that's the story of this NBA Finals, is those two tandems going at each other. And I do think that what's the key to success here, as you look at the NBA Finals, assume we get the Mavericks, which I think all signs point to yes, we'll get them, is them bringing it on the defensive end. I really think that offensively, the Celtics will be able to figure it out. Tonight, they're shooting terrible from the floor, and they're able to figure it out. Eventually, shots will fall. They got shot makers. But I think when you guys look at the NBA Finals, what's most important coming out of Brown and Tatum, knowing it's probably going to be Luka and Kyrie on the opposite side of the bracket?
I think just playing at the level that they have and the play style that they have been utilizing throughout the playoffs that Joe has implemented, and the play calls they've been using is going to work perfectly against the Dallas Mavericks. I think the Dallas Mavericks are a very top-heavy team. I think there's a lot of mismatches that the Celtics will be able to find and dismantle with their offense, especially if Porzingis comes back and you can stretch the floor with Lively and Gafford and open up the lanes for Tatum and Brown. I think that they're gonna do a fantastic job against those guys. I think it's just being able to, as they've shown and proven through the past few games, is just being able to continue to step up in those big moments. Because I know there's going to be a few tight games against Dallas, but I think that we're going to see more games that aren't really down to the wire with Dallas. I think it's going to be who shows up at first in each of those games.
When you look at Dallas as a team, I think they could struggle against the Celtics when you look at the consensus and what Joe Ball really is. Obviously Dallas in the last quarter of the season, their defense has been phenomenal, and in the postseason as well. But at the end of the day, Luka and Kyrie are going to be on the floor, right? At least one of them will be on the court at all time. And I'm not calling them a defensive liability. And I'm not saying the Celtics are going to matchup hunt, but you have Luka on Tatum per se. I think we saw it in the regular season. You beat your man, you find the open man, and that's an open three. That's Joe Ball, right? And I think that we're going to see a lot of that in the finals. So I think we're going to have a lot of games where we'll see 40 plus 3-point attempts.
Right.
Beating your guy off the dribble, hitting Al Horford, Derek White in the corner. Depending on how Porzingis is, he, as Franco said, he adds just a whole nother dimension. When you look at, he can pull the big man out of the paint, whether it's Lively or Gafford, which could open things up, especially whoever the top heavy guys are guarding, and that being Luka or Kyrie. So when you look at it like that, I think the Celtics have the advantage. And if you want to compare the two tandems to each other, the two different duos, I think you have to just consider the fact that the guys that we're going to be throwing at Luka and Kyrie are a lot different than the guys they've been seeing this entire postseason. You got 4 guys on the Celtics that I'm comfortable guarding them on the perimeter, that being the Jays, D. White, and Drew Holiday. I think we can all agree that we like our chances as long as Luka's not in the mid post on Derek White. I'm super comfortable with those, and I think Luka's tired. I mean, obviously he's an elite player, but it hasn't been an easy journey for Luka this entire postseason, and I'm just excited to see how they attack that.
Well, you just said something real quick that I have to chime in on. Kristaps Porzingis bringing another dimension to this team. Now, let's put this into perspective for people real quick, because, a heavy narrative, with this Celtics team is, it's a cakewalk to the NBA Finals. Now, the Celtics in the offseason stripped their roster and all their depth clean to acquire Kristaps Porzingis. And now fast forward about 8-9 months now in the NBA playoffs, that piece in which the depth was stripped from is no longer playing. Obviously expecting him to return to the NBA Finals, but they were able to get to the NBA Finals without this piece that their roster was so deconstructed for, and they still did it without many problems. And I think that is so impressive, and that's not being talked about enough, that who's coming back for the Boston Celtics is no scrub. He is an all-star, all-NBA caliber player that no other team can say they have coming back in their lineup after already advancing to the NBA Finals. So I know a little bit off topic. Right, yes, in 4 games. So it's like, that is what's crazy about this entire run for me. It's like, yes, it was expected, yes, this and that, but it's like, they don't have Kristaps, man. Like, that isn't just nothing, right? When you throw away your roster and your depth and Smart and all these guys, right, to bring in this powerhouse of a big man and this floor spacing ability and the shot blocking ability and the rebounding ability of Kristaps, and you get to the finals so easily and with such ease without him on the court, that says something. No matter who you're facing in the playoffs, that says something about your team. No doubt about it.
I would just also, like, going back to what we were just talking about, like matchup wise, I think the Celtics matchup, I think the Mavs are the best possible outcome from a opponent perspective, just of like the top 3 teams that I think we thought could compete. I thought Denver was a really, really bad matchup for us. I thought Minnesota was going to be tough. But like you just mentioned, there's probably at least 1 or 2 guys on the floor at all times with Dallas where you can legitimately say, I trust anybody on our floor to go by them. And then once we go by them, we can get an open look. And we can go 1 to 5. I trust Tatum, Brown, White, Horford, even to guard Luka, guard Kyrie, switch. And yeah, I think Dallas is probably the most favorable matchup we can think of from tactical, we can beat this team perspective.
And I will say this, Luka Doncic better be ready to guard for 48 minutes. Because every second that guy's on the court, the Boston Celtics are running action towards Luka Doncic. Luka is going to need to prove in these NBA Finals, excuse me, that he can defend. And he can defend at a good enough level in which it does not affect his team. Because I'll tell you what, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Drew Holiday, Derek Wright, Kristaps Porzingis, they're coming for that Luka Doncic matchup. And on the flip side, if we're talking matchups here, who do you attack if you're Kyrie Irving or Luka? Who gives you the best chance at scoring? Kristaps probably in that action.
The pick and roll.
The pick and roll when Al Horford checks into the game. But
that's my only concern.
Right. But one-on-one, when you got defender on defender, there's no matchup that the Mavericks can really attack in the Celtics top 5. We're going to be playing probably in the NBA Finals 35-plus minutes together. I mean, it's going to be very, very heavily loaded in the top 5 that you can really feel comfortable about. So, I mean, like, if we're going matchup-wise, I think Dallas offensively presents a lot of tough shot making. But offensively for us, I think we're going to be able to get our way, despite Dallas's very strange surgence in defensive statistics.
And I think that Dallas is going to have to play a few more games with Minnesota. I think that it's been a very interesting series in the Western Conference, and I think that Minnesota is one of those teams that is going to not just vanish. And I think they're in the same type of dogfight that we were in. So who knows what fatigue is going to set in for this game. And that's just been a luxury for the Celtics through this entire playoff.
All right, so I feel like it's time now. I don't want to toot my own horn, but I'm gonna toot it a little bit because if you go back onto my page and you go onto our reels and you scroll down just a little bit right before the playoffs started, I put out my playoff predictions. Now I did have this matchup. I had the Mavericks and the Celtics. Then, thank you, applause, thank you. Then I did say Celtics in 6. Then, prediction wise, I want to hear what you guys have to have for me with this matchup. I will say, I think I do still stand on Celtics in 6. I think, I think the Mavericks and Luka and Kyrie are good enough to give you 2 explosion games. I will say this, though, before I let you guys go. I'm going to say something that it's been proven now through 3 rounds that it's really tough to beat Boston more than once. And that this team responds extremely well after a loss. Yeah. So I'm going to stick with 6, but I wouldn't be shocked if it was 5.
I can almost envision 5. I do not see a world that the Celtics are 3 games are up 3 games in Boston and aren't able to close it out then and there. I mean, I guarantee
I can see a
will,
world. I've seen it a couple times.
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing. I was about to say then they'd go into Dallas and win.
I mean, this year, I think that it's a lot different. I mean, that's the slogan of the team this year, right?
Yeah.
I think that Dallas. I just don't see Dallas other than if Kyrie and Luka show that they are the top duo in the NBA, there's still a chance that the Celtics still win the game.
I'll just say I feel like it's weird that I trust this team more on the road than at home, and I feel like if it's a game 6 and you're up 3-2 with a chance to close it out, I trust this team with a road game to close out an NBA championship because I think that they haven't lost a road game so far this postseason, and so I'll take Celtics in 6 on the road in Dallas.
I think 6 is fair, but like for me at this point, I feel like it's still early just to call it, just because I think there's still a question mark above the Timberwolves series and health issues. Like I could definitely see the Timberwolves winning the next 2, and I think that definitely could complicate things. I'm also looking at Derek Lively, Maxi Kleber's coming back, and Luka Doncic is still banged out. So, like for me, it's one of those things that's still up in the air. And I don't know, maybe like if Rob, you do like a finals preview, then I guess I'll have to give you my prediction then.
All right. So, it's tough. I said 6, and I want to touch it, but it's like this is how I kind of see it going, and I feel like Boston wins both of them, but it's tough. I mean, again, like Finn said, there's so many situations that you don't know what's going to happen yet. I just don't know how ready everyone outside of Kyrie Irving is going to be. Because I'll tell you what, this Celtics team is ready. They've proven it, they showed it, and it's been on the national scale now for a month now in the playoffs that this team's ready to go. And I don't know if Dallas will be the same. They got a lot of guys that are playing in their first finals. A lot of these Celtics here are in their second, have a ring, have played in big games. So, it will be interesting to see what happens. But I mean, to be fair, Dallas, I know they're on the graphic. I did throw them up there. I'll take responsibility for that. They do have to finish that series against Minnesota, and I don't think Minnesota, just like Indiana did tonight, I don't think Minnesota is just going to let them steamroll them. They got to go back for Game 5 to Minnesota anyway, so why not play a game? And we'll see.
The energy is about to shift. That's what Jaylen Brown just said in his post-game presser. So
energy is about. I love that. I love that. So I mean, it's a great day. It's a great day to be a Celtics fan. We got to celebrate this moment now. But at the end of the day, the game it's just starting, and that's the fun thing. It's a whole new season. It's a whole new series. The Celtics obviously, handled business tonight, and it was a great feeling. So, before, we haven't talked about someone, and we have to. Two people actually I want to touch on. One of them is Jason Tatum. We didn't really talk about him too much. It's really not his night, but you still got to talk about him because I think he was phenomenal in this series, and we knew we were expecting that. He did not struggle at all against Indiana in the regular season, the 5 games that we saw them. He did not really struggle getting to the paint at all in this series. However, that 3-point shot still just does not seem to be there. He went 4 of 8 in game 3, tonight 3 of 10. You would hope that with these 9 days, Jason Tatum is taking as many threes as he possibly can. Now, he did, however, have a very successful season against the Dallas Mavericks, scoring right around 34 points per game, guys. So with Tatum, you saw his aggressiveness, come out and was on display against Indiana without their sheer rim protection. Now, Dallas has, they have some rim protecting with Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively, but nothing, I don't think, in the category of stopping and containing Jason Tatum. So when you look at JT and you look at the Boston Celtics, more specifically Jason Tatum, what needs to happen from him in order to have a successful series against the Dallas Mavericks?
Take advantage of his matchups. I think that he's going to be seeing a lot of double teams, especially against a Dallas Mavericks he's most likely going to be matched up with PJ Washington throughout most of the series, if not in his if the Dallas Mavericks don't run his own. I think that there's a very high chance that he runs that almost playmaker decoy role and it draws the double team until someone gets open. I think he did a fantastic job of that throughout this entire series. Another great rebounding performance from him, almost a triple double from him, and assists as well. I think that he's done a great job as the ball handler, and I think he's understanding that he doesn't need to he can find the rim. I think he'll find the rim a lot more against the Dallas Mavericks, and hopefully his shot heats up. All it takes is one game for these players to catch on fire. We've seen Jason Tatum be able to do that once that field goal percentage goes up, but I honestly think it's just attacking the rim for Jason Tatum.
I'll also add, I think we've come to expect so much from him that when he does play well, it goes like unnoticed. You're like, oh, that's Jason Tatum, but he averaged 30.6 points per game this series, 10 boards and 6 assists on 46% shooting. His 3-ball was not there for most of the series, like we talked about, but I thought he had a really, really strong series. I think he's had a really strong playoffs in general. He's caught some flack for whatever reason. People can decide and people can nitpick, but I think overall he's had a really strong postseason, and I think this is a favorable matchup for him to continue that and have a really strong finals as well.
Yeah, I just think that when JT lets the game come to him, I mean, he's just such a weapon,
Right.
not only scoring the ball, but creating for his teammates. I feel like something I've said every single time I've come on the show is he just controls the pace of the game. And, I mean, if he can do that, especially against Luka, no matter what his shot, if he's shooting 3 for 10 for 3 or whatever, he's going to make a positive impact. I mean, you have to focus on the fact that he has shown his ability to get to the basket and get into the paint. And I think against the Mavericks, we'll also see that. I mean, I also think will help to have, 10 days off to get his shit together. But overall, I just think that he's a guy that I don't worry about. I mean, considering the fact that obviously he's not a defensive liability, right? And we've just seen him control so many games, so many moments, and the clutch play and the 3 of the wins versus the Pacers were all I needed to see to be like, okay, I'm not going to worry about JT.
He needs to be very intent with his moves and his attacks. I think it is very easy for Jason Tatum to fall victim, and he hasn't done it this season, this postseason, really, of bad shooting nights. He just needs to continue controlling the game. You got a guy on the opposite end of the floor in Luka Doncic that can control the game, just not better, arguably better than Jason Tatum can. And I think what has set the Celtics aside from everyone else has been Tatum's ability to control the game. If Tatum can control the game and play at Jason Tatum's pace in the NBA Finals and not Luka Doncic's, they'll be A-okay. So I really do think that's what's important from JT in these finals, is that obviously you got to keep moving the ball. He draws so much defensive attention. It gives guys like Brown and White and Holiday and Horford and Hauser and all those guys wide open looks, and it really helps them. And same goes for Brown. However, he needs to play at his own pace. He needs to control the game. Because when he does that, the Celtics are really, really tough to beat. Now, guys, I do want to give an update on some pretty important news here moving forward with the Celtics. Sam Hauser did just shotgun a beer, actually a couple beers. I have to drop that. The guys are enjoying tonight. They're celebrating. So, via Bobby Manning and, many more sources, he seems to be the life of the party in the locker room, guys. But however, the Boston Celtics just advanced to yet another NBA Finals. They are awaiting the Dallas Mavericks or maybe the Minnesota Timberwolves. That is on June 6th, 2024 at 8:30 p.m. The Celtics winners 105-102 in Indiana to complete the sweep and to advance, like I said, to the NBA Finals. Guys, we're going to have you covered for all NBA Finals games. We're going to be having podcasts dropping within these next 9 days off. Stay tuned for those. If you're not following us on all of our social medias, guys, the link for everyone's personals and the Celtics Talk Weekly main are in the description down below, guys. And you know what time it is. Cue that music. And until next time, go Celtics.